didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
Part of what makes this show is the show within the show. The biggest topic on the show always seems to be the show itself. This is a way to give you clones a way to interact with one another. Yes, we will be going through the chat. Yes, it'll be a part of the program. The only thing that could ruin the show are the old school clones spitting up the same bull crap that they always have. The jungle is out taking names and ready to dominate. Let's get it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Let's go right to the Higginbotham hotline. Bring in David Hale of ESPN, covers the ACC. We had a conversation earlier about James Franklin winning the offseason, some of his quotes. What did you make of what he said, and what do you make of where Virginia Tech is right now heading into this season, David?
Yeah, I mean, look, given where they were, there's no question. I don't know if winning the offseason is exactly if North Carolina and Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson are the alternative, then yes, you absolutely won the offseason. But I mean, what Virginia Tech has won is the right to have much higher expectations than they had a year ago. Now, should those expectations be pegged around a conference championship game, a playoff berth? To me, that's getting the cart way ahead of the horse. This is a better team markedly than it was a year ago. I'd be pretty surprised if they're not a bowl team, 7 to 8 wins. But there's still a lot of pieces that are unproven there. They've got some pieces that I really like. Kamari Copeland was in here for ACC Media Days yesterday. I mean, he's a beast. And Luke Reynolds, their tight end. I mean, he's got a lot of Ty Warren in him. But we don't even really know what their quarterback situation is for certain yet. And, the other thing, I think there's this sort of double-edged sword. Everybody looks at Indiana last year and says, boy, when a coach can bring a bunch of talent from the last school with him, that's always a really good thing. And it probably is on the aggregate. But Franklin even admitted, we were concerned about there being cliques within this team of the Penn State guys and then the Virginia Tech guys and then the new guys. I just think there's a lot to say, hey, this is all going to be magic wand. It's going to immediately be a great team. I think it's going to be much better the product than we saw last year, but I'm not quite sold that we're ready to call Virginia Tech a team that's back into the national conversation right away.
We're talking with David Hale of ESPN. He is at ACC Media Days. I got to kind of pause this and rewind for a moment. And something that you just said. Bill Belichick is the head coach of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I understand the just craziness that was last year, but it's almost like that has completely slipped through the cracks for a lot of this. Where are things there right now?
You are spot on. And look, theoretically, I'm about to talk to him in 15 minutes or so. We'll see if he shows up to have this conversation. But look, you can look at the product on the field last year and see that it was a bad product. How much better is it this year than last year? I think at the very least, adding Bobby Petrino as your play caller is a market upgrade from where they were last year. But here's the other thing that I can't step away from entirely. If you hired Bill Belichick to coach at Ohio State and the first year wasn't good, but he was building something, well, okay, I can see how that works. Part of the allure of making that hire at a place like North Carolina that traditionally has not cared about football at all is that you are moving the needle by changing the brand identity. And when you do that, I think part of it is you got to go out there and sell. And look, James Franklin's a great example of James is not the most media-friendly guy. He does not want to be in front of cameras all the time, but he's done it. And he's going out there and selling the hell out of Virginia Tech, which already has more, I think, fan interest than Carolina does. So when you have a guy who is basically slashed and burned any opportunity for goodwill or, media attention or any of those things, it feels like just setting aside the on-field product, it feels like such a missed opportunity to help maximize the brand identity of a product that not many people were all that interested in before, but for a brief moment had a whole lot of interest in.
It's amazing to see just the adjustment that we have from one year to the next on Bill Belichick, on Deion Sanders, on everybody. So you better win year one, or you better sustain, or else media interest will die out quickly. When you look at Clemson, I'm amazed at how Dabo handled it yesterday. Like, he didn't really get too angry, he didn't get too defensive. Like, I thought he actually handled it pretty well. So just your read on Clemson and where they're at right now, where Dabo is, frankly, personally.
And I keep people asking me for my read on Clemson, and the saddest thing, this is for the first time maybe in 20 years of being around, or almost 20 years of being around Dabo and that program. I don't have a good read. What I can tell you is, on paper, this is probably the least talented Clemson team that Dabo has had since, I don't know, 2010?
9, maybe.
And not surprisingly, the last time that he was coming off of a season this bad was 2010. You look at a quarterback situation that I think is very up in the air, and then they got a freshman in Tate Reynolds who they like a lot, and I think for good reason. But I mean, I'm dubious that he's ready to start immediately, and I'm more dubious that he's ready to start in Baton Rouge in week 1. And what Dabo has done this offseason really is a U-turn and said, hey, I listened to you people about a lot of things, and it didn't work out. So I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to the things I'm most comfortable with, starting with new offensive coordinator / old offensive coordinator Chad Morris. I have seen Dabo prove people wrong enough that I'm just not comfortable saying it's not going to work. But what is not working like? I look like are they an 8-win team? Are they a 9-win team? I just look at this roster and I can't fathom this is a ACC champion playoff caliber team. It doesn't look like it at all. But again, like as Dabo said yesterday when we were talking to him, if what we thought before the season mattered, he'd have won a national championship last year, and he'd also been fired years and years and years ago. So Dabo has made both good and bad a career out of disproving people's expectations.
David Hale with us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking ACC Media Day. So if Clemson is not that roster-wise, we all believe Miami is that. Who else in the league is or could be that this season?
The team I really like is SMU, because you start looking at their roster, and I'm exaggerating this claim. I don't mean this as apples to apples, but there's a lot of similarity in my mind with Indiana, and it's a veteran team with the guys with a ton of snaps under their belt. Now, they're not all 4- and 5-star guys, but they have played at a high level, and they've done it a lot for a long time. And then you've got a quarterback who can be a real difference maker. Kevin Jennings, look, in fairness, in some of his biggest games has turned the ball over too much. But when he's humming, he's as good as any quarterback in the country, and he is a lot of fun to watch. He's got a ton of, overused term in quarterback lingo, but a lot of moxie to go out and just sling it around and make some plays when he has to. And he's been starting. This is his 4th year as at least a part-time starter. So he's got a lot of experience under his belt too. And I think one of the things that Indiana taught us last year is, and I was a believer in this as much as anybody, that it used to be the most talent, the blue chip ratio and all of that. Like, those are the teams that could win. Indiana kind of showed like the alternative to that, if you can't have all 4 and 5 stars, is have guys that are older and who have played a lot of snaps. And I think SMU fits that bill. So that's a team that I like. I like Louisville a lot. TBD on Lincoln Kienholz and who he is as a quarterback, but there's a lot else to like with Louisville. And you go back and look at Jeff Brom's 3 years in Louisville, and it's like the games they've lost, like they were right there. Like, in a lot of them, they shot themselves in the foot. If Louisville can play a season where they don't do something dumb to cost themselves a game or two, they beat Miami last year. And I look at that Miami game. I was at that Miami Louisville game last year, and it wasn't that they beat Miami. They were the better team, hands down, on the field in Miami last year. So, and Jeff Brom, I think very highly of as a coach. So that's a team that just needs to play smart football for a full season, and they're going to be in the mix.
Why does Jeff Brom lose one he shouldn't, like every year? And like lose it in remarkable fashion. Why does that happen for a guy that's so universally respected?
And that is, I mean, you sit down and talk to him, and you're like, this dude's brilliant.
He's
of course
awesome.
He's going to be a great footballer, and he is, yeah.
And he gets beat by 30 to SMU. It's like, what? You know what I mean?
Or go look. I mean, go look at that Stanford game 2 years ago, and it is one of the most embarrassing losses by any team I have ever seen in my time in college football. Like, it was just a series of like Three Stooges level stupidity. And, you know, I don't, the short answer is I don't know how this keeps happening other than, like, you know, I grew up a Cubs fan and you just think sometimes you're cursed. But I will say this, like, he has a very, and I've talked to him about this, like his approach to roster building is go get the best guys you can find, and all the other stuff kind of works itself out. And I think more often than not that is true. But sometimes when you don't have the traditional quote unquote glue guys, or you don't have necessarily some of those guys who are kind of, you've got too many guys who know their own talent, like sometimes that can backfire in big moments. And I don't know if that's the reason why or not. I'm not sure that Jeff Brom's ever going to change his philosophy on how he's putting a team together, regardless of how many of those games happen. But you know, you look at, again, you sit down and talk to him or talk to some of the guys that he has playing for him who I like a whole lot, and you say, how does this happen? The answer is, I don't know.
David, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on to discuss it. Always appreciate the time. Always appreciate your insight, and enjoy that conversation with Coach Belichick.
All right, man. Good talking to you guys.
David Hale of ESPN joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Some interesting thoughts there. Yours on Louisville, his on Clemson. Just saying that it doesn't – yes, it could get back to being really good. It's probably not going to be what it was last year, but it also doesn't feel like one of those all-timer teams that Dabo's had there in South Carolina.
There's also, though, an element, and we've talked about this with Bama's recruiting class. We've talked about it a handful of times. Like, 5 stars are great until they're not. Like, 5 stars are great until they become a problem. Like, 5 stars are great until they start requiring more attention and start draining the energy of the room. And I'm not saying all 5 stars are that way. I'm just saying 5 stars now come with a pretty significant price tag and potentially a level of comfort financially that doesn't force them to grind the way they once did. So I do think there's benefits in what he just said in having the underrated 3-star grinder with a chip on his shoulder can elevate his play over the course of 3 or 4 years. Like, if you can do that, you're going to be in really good shape. So I'll be really curious to see like where things go with the Clemson, because they haven't had the same type of, you know, recruiting output. Maybe the roster isn't quote as talented, but maybe they're closer. Maybe there's a bunch of grinders on that roster where they make a run, because we've already seen that from Louisville's got a bunch of grinders and they're really good. I mean, goodness gracious, Clev Lubin was like a 2-star and he's a stud. You know, so there's plenty of guys that can play, but it'll be interesting. The ACC is fascinating this year. It really is.
There's no doubt. All right, plenty more to get to across the course of the show today. Bruce Feldman in the 9 o'clock hour. When we come back, we mentioned SEC Media Day attendees by position. Maybe look at who's there, or look at kind of our own personal all-SEC team. Not who maybe we think is the best at each position, but who are we most looking forward to watching at every position this year in the Southeastern Conference. We have 3 Thursday nights left with no NFL or college football. Think about that after last night. 3 more to go. And then we made it.
But you're counting preseason NFL as NFL?
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that.
Is it live tackle football?
I don't know.
Just checking.
Played a lot of preseason NFL. So I'm glad that you like that.
Well, then you can
quality.
be our go-to analyst when it rolls around.
I'll delegate that to you.
Back with more next.
Jocks 94.5 is live on YouTube every weekday, plus video shorts and podcasts. Find us at Jocks 94.5 and smash the subscribe and like button so you never miss a moment. Jocks 94.5 on YouTube.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Mr. Sandman. All I ever wanted to be was a pro wrestler. So I got to live my life and make people really happy.
The Heartbreak Kid himself, Shawn Michaels.
Do you think there's anybody better than you were?
I think I was great at what I did, and I think other people were great at what they did as well. Greatness is more a mindset, I think, than anything else.
Mindset, motivation, insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.